What's up, Guardians, and welcome back, Hunters. I'm Profane, and thank you as always for checking out the video. As we continue our journey through the best builds in Destiny, we turn our focus back onto the Hunter class, where we've got an extraordinary prismatic build to check out, which features an exotic class item that contains an impressive combination of the Spirit of Assassin and Spirit of the Liar. The synergy that's created by these exotic perks will provide us with top-notch levels of survivability, while giving us tons of power-ups that'll help us shred through big bad enemies with ease, which will make this a great build to take into mythic level Kepler missions, Grandmaster portal activities, and just about anything that you find yourself getting into. So let's talk about these exotic perks and why you need to be using them. We start with the Spirit of Assassin, which provides us with temporary invisibility whenever we defeat enemies with a powered melee or a finisher. The duration of this invisibility will be based on the level of the enemy. Rank and file enemies would provide about 7 seconds, but high-ranking enemies would provide as much as 14. Invisibility has always given hunters a tactical advantage during combat. You have time to reload weapons, collect orbs and ammo, and regain health and reposition. Prismatic hunters would normally have to rely on Stylish Executioner to receive that invisibility, but since we'll have that on every finisher and every powered melee final blow, we'll be freed up to use aspects that give us an advantage in terms of damage output. And that brings us to the Spirit of Liar. After we've struck an enemy with a powered melee, or after receiving melee damage, we will gain a 400% bonus to melee damage. This will increase the damage of combination blow and any unpowered melee, and it will last for 3 seconds, with absolutely no cooldown between its next activation. And when this is active, you will see the cross counter buff on the left hand side of your screen. This gives us the opportunity to unleash havoc on enemies from point blank range, and because we'll have invisibility to fall back onto, we'll be able to dip in and out of combat as we please, which will help us manage the flow of each engagement. As we mentioned, this plays off of the use of combination blow, and this melee option has its own damage bonuses. As we defeat enemies with our melee, we will build up a stacking bonus in melee damage. This starts as a 133% bonus, but it's going to transition to as much as a 400% bonus, and if we have cross counter active at the same time, we would receive both damage bonuses. We also gain a portion of health back whenever this is active. This starts by providing 100 HP at 1 stack, but it gradually reduces to 40 HP whenever at 3 stacks. And when we defeat enemies with combination blow, we will restore class ability energy. We currently have Gambler's Dodge equipped as our class ability, so this will give us melee energy back, which would create a continuous loop of dodge, melee, dodge. When it comes to aspects, there's 2 different setups that I would recommend. One includes Winter Shroud with Threaded Spectre, and the other would be Ascension and Threaded Spectre. We would only be using Winter Shroud for the sake of triggering a 10% bonus in light ability damage, which will be given to us thanks to the Facet of Courage fragment. So whenever we perform a dodge, we would trigger slow onto nearby enemies, and we could follow that up with consecutive melee attacks. But if we have other ways of applying Sever, Unravel, Suspend, Slow, and Freeze, then we don't need to rely on this aspect. We are using the Grapple Grenade option with this build, which does unravel enemies. It doesn't receive the bonuses from Spirit of the Liar, but it can activate cross counter, and it can trigger and benefit from combination blow. And if we started out by using this, we'd be applying that elemental debuff, so that our follow-up combination blow would be receiving that 10% bonus in damage. Ascension gives us a means of becoming amplified, which grants us with a 15% bonus in damage resistance. We also get a speed boost with this, and our weapons will gain improved handling and reload speed. Ascension jolts enemies, so it'll be effective against overload champions. It's also going to deal enough damage to where our melee attack is almost always going to one-shot an enemy, ensuring that we could instantly go invisible. Threaded Spectre is going to play into the use of whichever class ability that we use, so whenever we perform a dodge or ascension, we're creating a distraction for our enemies. As soon as this activates, enemies are going to forget that you even exist, allowing you to move around as you please, and since you'll no longer have aggro, it'll be a lot easier to engage enemies. And when the Spectres detonate, they will trigger a large explosion, and 2 threadlings will be created. When we have Threaded Spectre equipped, we will receive a 60% bonus to the base regeneration rate of our class ability, which would help us rotate through a constant cycle of melees and dodges. When it comes to our choice in fragments, we mentioned Facet of Courage already, but we're also using Facet of Dawn, which will trigger Radiance whenever we strike enemies with a powered melee, and that includes our grapple melee. So as soon as we strike an enemy, our weapons get a 20% bonus in damage. This is going to align with our goal of deleting enemies from point blank range, because we have every intent of using weapons that come with Trench Barrel and 1-2 Punch. Trench Barrel grants bonus weapon damage after using our melee, and when 1-2 Punch is equipped, we will give our melee abilities a 150% bonus in damage, unless that's activated by a hand cannon, in which case that will be reduced to 75%. So these are traits that we definitely want to include in our weapons, but there's one exotic weapon that features both of these traits, and that is the Bastion Kinetic Fusion Rifle, which is one of my top recommendations to use with this build. We've got Facet of Awakening equipped, which will create elemental pickups as we rapidly defeat enemies. Based on the elements that we're using, this will create tangles and ionic traces, and potentially even stasis shards. Ionic traces are extremely beneficial as they provide 15% bonus ability energy to each of our 3 abilities, and if we were to create any stasis shards, those would provide 10% bonus melee energy. With Facet of Hope equipped, we'll gain a bonus of 40% to our class ability regeneration whenever an elemental buff like Radiance or Amplified is active, and that's going to get bumped up to 60% whenever 2 buffs are active, so that's going to really help us out with the uptime of our Ascension, Threaded Specters, and Winter Shroud. The final fragment that we're using is Facet of Purpose. This grants an elemental buff whenever collecting an orb, and this will be based on our choice in super. Currently we have Silk Strike equipped. This is one of the strongest super options right now, and because we have this equipped, we will activate Woven Mail whenever we collect an orb. And when this is active, we will gain a 45% bonus in damage resistance, which is going to stack alongside Amplified. Before we transition over to our new artifact mods, let's take a moment to talk about armor, character stats, and armor sets. This build is going to revolve heavily around 3 character stats, and that is melee, super, and grenade. If at all possible, we would want to extend our melee stat to as much as 200. It's at this point we would receive a 30% bonus to all melee damage, which will make combination blow and cross counter even stronger. If we invested at least 100 points into our grenades, we would drastically improve their uptime, but since our melee stat dictates how much damage our grapple melee does, I would only recommend getting your grenade stat to 100. When it comes to our super, we don't have as much of a need to reach 200 either. A 45% bonus in super damage would be great, but when it comes to Silk Strike, you're actually going to deal more damage with the light attack of Silk Strike by having a higher melee stat. But by at least reaching 100 points in our super stat, we would gain a 190% bonus to any source of super regen. Which brings us to the choice of Dynamo or Hands-On as a viable helmet mod. Dynamo provides bonus super energy whenever performing our class ability near enemies, but will generate more energy by using Hands-On. If you are coming in short with your grenade, super, or melee stats, then I would recommend using font mods on your helmet or gloves. Font mods provide 20 points in extra stats with 1 mod equipped, 40 points with 2, and 50 points with 3. We would need to keep armor charges active for this to work, so you should consider running mods like Heavy Handed, Siphon, and Reaper. There's also new weapon traits like Blast Distributor and Proximity Power, which could be very beneficial for us, as these provide bonus stats after final blows. Thresh, Demolitionist, and Pugilist would also be great weapon traits to consider using, as these would provide bonus energy on final blows, which would get improved as we increase our character stats. As far as armor sets go, we have a couple of solid options, but I think the combination of Bushido and Tech-Sec will be the best option with this build, especially if we're using a kinetic weapon like Bastion. With a 2-piece of Bushido armor, we would trigger 30 points of health regen whenever we defeat enemies with a freshly drawn weapon. Considering that we've already got health regen thanks to combination blow and armor mods like recuperation, this is going to ensure that we're able to survive those tougher engagements. And with the Tech-Sec 2-set bonus, our kinetic weapons will deal 200% increased damage against any enemy shield, making the Bastion an even stronger option in in-game content. Now that we've addressed all the ins and outs of this build, let's talk about the bonuses that we'll get from our artifact. The Tightly Woven mod is going to improve our class ability and grenade stats by providing us with an extra 20 points to both stats whenever Woven Mail is active. Elemental Daze will be crucial to use whenever champions are present, as this will create an elemental explosion whenever champions are stunned, and after they're stunned, they'll become debuffed by a matching element. But the most important artifact mod to use is going to be Shield Crush. When we have Radiance or Amplified active, we will receive a 12% bonus to our grapple uptime and its damage. And when we have Woven Mail active, we'll gain a 50% bonus to our melee damage and uptime, which includes our unpowered melee and our combination blow. And this bonus damage will stack along with cross counter, combination blow, and whatever our character stats are providing us. When it comes to Prismatic Hunter builds, there's a wide array of powerful options, but the combination of this Prismatic setup with the Spirit of Assassin and Spirit of Liar creates unique opportunities for hunters to engage enemies, opening you up to unleash massive levels of point-blank damage onto distracted enemies, and then disappearing just as quick. So if you've been looking for a strong Prismatic build to get you through Mythic Kepler or Grandmaster level activities, then I recommend you give this build a try, and once you've checked it out, let us know what you thought. If you need help getting today's build set up, then be sure to check out my Mobalytics and dim links, which are down below. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel, and so does being a member. So a big shout out and thank you to all of our channel members. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.